to go, folks? Welcome to the Plan Commission meeting for February 16, 2016. Happy belated Valentine's Day to everybody. For those that have not had the honor or privilege of being at a Plan Commission meeting before, once we're done calling the roll and approving the minutes, the way things work is city staff presents on an item. After they're done with their presentation, they open it up to the commission for technical questions. Once the technical questions are done, then it's open to the public. If you have a comment or a question, we ask that you please step up to the microphone and state your name and address so that we have that for the minutes, and then you can be heard on TV. After everybody who has had a desire to speak has done so, we close public commentary, bring it back to the commission for discussion and usually a vote. And I would also ask that you silence your cell phones so that it doesn't distract us during the course of the meeting. With that, let us call the roll, Deb.
David Borslak.
Present.
Ed Bowen.
Here.
Jeffrey Tomes.
Here.
Thomas Wojtek.
Here.
John Hintz. Steve Cummings.
Here.
Kathleen Propp. Gary Gray.
Ew.
Donna Laurie.
Here.
Robert Weigert. Carl Nolenberger.
Okay, moving on to the minutes of from the meeting on January 19th. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to those minutes?
Move approval. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion clearly passes. Let us move on to item number 1, development plan amendment for installation of an electronic message center sign within Universal Business Park at 2340 State Road 44 at Taco John's.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This one should be somewhat familiar to you all. It came through not too long ago. But this is a PD amendment basically to allow an electronic message center to be placed within the existing ground sign on the site. And it is a monument sign. And it should be noted that the EMC has already been installed. But this is the property, kind of familiar with it. This is State Truck Highway 44. It's about a half a mile from Washburn and the 41 interchange. You can see the zoning out here. Well, this is the land use and the zoning. Land use red shows commercial uses. The gray is industrial. The zoning itself is M3 plan development, and there's some C2 and M3 to the north. Kind of move up. This is a close-up of the site as it's developed, so you can see the Taco John structure, their parking lot. They have an EMC sign, or excuse me, a monument sign right here on their lot in the front. The reason they're coming through, the Universal Business Park covenants do not permit electronic message center signage at all within the business park. The enforcement of those covenants, and the private covenants, is a collaboration between the city and GO EDC, which is the Greater Oshkosh Economic Development Corporation. This property is also, as I had mentioned, governed by a planned development, and it also received a CUP for the drive-through restaurant. So the big reason for the planned development amendment is to allow that EMC within the business park covenants. The site itself is about 1.5 acres. As you can see on the screen, it was developed with a drive-through restaurant, Taco John's. In 2014, the end of 2014, it came before the Plan Commission for a land use compatibility review, as the covenants didn't allow restaurants. Also received a conditional use permit for the drive-through business itself and a plan development approval for the site design and the layout, which it has been laid out and designed as proposed. Let me move forward here. This is kind of another map. This is the location of the site to the north, and it doesn't show on here, but this is the Southwest Industrial Park to the north, kind of sandwiching in these properties. This is the northern extent of the Universal Business Park, which is outlined in gray. So it does cross State Road 44. Within that business park, there are currently three office buildings right now, with space for a fourth. And then the Taco John site is the one that's outlined in blue. So again, it is in the business park, somewhat separated. Uses along Highway 44 are varied in size and style and architecture. Along the corridor, there are several gas stations. There's a Quick Trip and a Shell. There's warehouse distribution facilities, offices, retail and wholesale businesses, landscape businesses, financial institutions. There's some multifamily, some child care. So you have a very diverse population of businesses along State Trunk Highway 44. I'll kind of go forward here a little bit. So as part of the plan development, signage was approved. This was the sign package that was put forward with the plan development approval. What was constructed was a little bit different than what was proposed. This is what's constructed out on the site right now. As you can see by the snow, recently taken. And there's a section in the center was in the permit for hand changeable copy. So not electronic message, but changeable copy. It did meet the code. It met the business park covenants. So that is what was constructed out there. The building itself, Taco John's, we just kind of threw a picture of what it looks like in there. It is compatible with the sign itself. But so the ground sign was to be no taller than 10 feet and no greater than 50 square feet per side, which it does meet. What the petitioner wants to do, or actually has already done, is taken the center portion. If we have a picture of it, this is just the site plan showing the sign location. So this is the sign that was constructed with the electronic message center operating right now. The EMC portion takes half of the sign area on both sides, so 25 square feet per side, 50 square feet total, which meets our standards of our M3 zoning district. So it does not have a problem with city zoning. Where again it falls into issue is with the Universal Business Park covenants. They do not allow the electronic message center sign whatsoever. So the PD amendment would be allowing an amendment to that. Staff reviewed the request for consistency with other signage in the area. As I had mentioned, this is in the Universal Business Park, but the Highway 44 corridor is quite diverse. There are other signs in the area. These are just sort of views. It's kind of hard to see. This is a view looking west down 44, and this is a view looking east towards the highway. And you can see some of the other signs in the area, although they are not in the business park. One is in the business park. It's this Verve Financial sign, which has an electronic copy on the top of it. Skiers Outlet, which is not in the business park, but which is on the corner of the frontage road in 44. They also have an EMC. Now that is permitted by code since they're not in the business park. Then the two gas stations, Quick Trip and Shell, both have their, not really an EMC, but it's their changeable price signs. So those are located in the district as well. So we did see quite a few of those signs in the corridor. We believe that the signage being proposed is appropriate for its use. It is not incompatible with signage along the corridor and with one sign in the business park itself. The EMC is reasonable and appropriate in size for that commercial highway setting. And the sign area does, as I had mentioned, meet zoning code, is not excessive to general commercial industrial setting, and the quality of the sign itself is pretty high quality and does match the building. In an effort to address those covenants, the owner of Taco John's went to the Go EDC staff and requested them to review this as far as their covenants go. The staff recommended approval of the inclusion of the EMC sign at this location. They didn't feel that it violated their standard for review, and I have that in the staff report. I won't read it. They did, Go EDC staff sent out a communication to their board who supported allowing the monument sign with the EMC with the inclusion of city staff recommended conditions, which we pulled strictly out of the draft zoning ordinance, and they are on here as conditions. So staff is recommending approval of the development plan amendment for installation of the EMC within the business park with 4 conditions: that no off-premise advertising is permitted, no flashing, scrolling, or animated messages, so that they will not change appearance more than once every 60 seconds, and transitions shall be instantaneous. That the signage includes photosensitive equipment, which automatically adjusts the brightness and contrast, and that the colors and images on the EMC don't imitate or can be confused with traffic control.
All right, thank you, sir. Technical questions, let's start with David.
3 questions. I'll just give them to you first, and then you can answer. One, can you tell me what is the purpose or why there are covenants in a business park or industrial park? 2, did Verve have permission, if they are in the business park, to do what they're doing? And 3, was Taco John's aware of either the conditions of putting their sign up or what the conditions were in the industrial park or business park?
Okay, well, let me answer those. the purpose of the covenants, obviously, is to regulate the style and feel of the business park, so everybody is kind of on the same playing field. The general purposes for those types of things are to create a certain street presence and curb appeal, and to have consistency with site development within the business park itself, and Darren can speak on that if there's other purposes.
Well, they're not unlike zoning. You're trying to use them to prescribe a certain feel. They're not unlike covenants in a subdivision where you require certain roof pitches, certain materials. So you're trying to protect your investment that you've made in that subdivision.
Right. And was Taco John's aware? I don't know if they were aware. I'm assuming they were not, or they wouldn't have put it up.
But they were the following, and maybe the owner will have to tell us, is if they presented us a sign, why did they deviate from that?
That I don't
Question
know.
you have to defer to the owner. The Verve sign, that was issued back, I think that sign was issued back in '06. We're not sure how that got issued. We issued the permit. I think at the time we had thought, or at least my memory was, I had thought OCDC at the time was Oshkosh Commercial Development Corporation was enforcing the covenants. Now I think there's a disconnect because they don't seem to remember that they were enforcing the covenants, and it's not clear from the covenants itself. I think it's clear when you read the covenants that they were the ones responsible for it. So there's a disconnect because it doesn't really say that we're going to be the enforcing agent in there. So I think there's some confusion. There was some confusion back then.
Right. Sometime in the late 2000s, I was here, obviously. We started regulating all the covenants as well. The city did. Prior to that, I think Oshkosh Area Economic Development Corporation was,
Or Chamco.
or Chamco was regulating the covenants. Covenants, like are private covenants between the person who sold the property and the person who bought them. So they are separate and distinct from the zoning regulations and land use regulations. However, since they're sort of an arm of the city, we've been regulating them since at least, I don't know,
And this is-
2008, 2009.
And this is the problem when you have an issue, something like this, where somebody comes in to our staff, to get a permit for something that clearly meets the zoning ordinance, but they might not know that the covenants are out there. So that's why you want, in the case of Chamco, you wanted another organization to be looking at those requests and handling those deviations through another body.
I don't know if those answered your questions.
Pretty well, thank you.
Other, Jeff?
So where did the breakdown happen? I mean, I don't recall, and I could be wrong, that there wasn't a signage definition in our original plan development,
Yes, there was. It was.
site development. Did it include an EDC?
It did not.
And so when we approved that, then does that mean Taco John's just ignored what was approved and put the EDC in?
They may not have been aware.
That they couldn't do the EDC?
Correct. And it may have been, and I can't speak for, for the process they went through, but it may have been something as simple as the sign company called the city, said what type of signage is allowed. The city looked at the zoning ordinance, and but the permit that was issued for the sign did not have an EMC on it.
And then why, if they
That was
said that
changed.
there's
That was changed at some point after they pulled the permit.
Right. No, and I get that.
Yep.
And if it's a combination of what you said was co-EDC and the city's responsibility, so don't we have, on the planning commission, don't we have then an obligation to understand what those covenants are within those areas when we make our decision, so we don't make a decision that actually violates that, so we don't get into these situations again? How do,
Well, remember, when this thing got approved back in, when was this approved?
October of 2014.
It was compliant with the covenants. So the
Right.
decision that you made was
Okay.
compliant with the covenants.
Yeah, if it would have not been compliant, we would have listed it out either as a base standard modification or not recommended for it.
I guess what I'm getting at is we didn't talk about any of those kinds of things to where we could have put a stipulation on there that if there is no EDC, that we shouldn't have put we should have mentioned that there's no EDC that's allowed
We did that one, if you look at the staff report, had requested an additional wall sign, and the Plan Commission and Council did deny that additional wall sign on the site.
All right.
Gary?
Yeah, it seems to me like Taco Bell disregarded.
Taco John's,
Oh, okay, I'm
big
sorry.
competitor.
Yes. Thank you. It's a good thing you came today.
Taco Bell had nothing to do with this.
Okay, Taco
Blame
Bell,
her.
right,
Did they?
excuse me. Basically disregarded the covenant, and my question is, what would prevent any other developer from disregarding a covenant or zoning code and building something that is not permitted, and then after it's built, come back and say, oops, we misunderstood, Plan Commission, but we need this approval. I mean, it seems like we're punching holes into the accountability to covenants and zoning codes if we approve this.
I think you hit on some of the problems that we do see on occasion where people would go do it and come back and ask for forgiveness and hope that it happens. I think we're struggling with this right now because we've had I think a myriad of covenant issues come up recently, and I think the Go EDC has been struggling with this question, and I think we need to come back together and talk about the covenant issues more formalize this process, because I know Jason's here. I know he struggles with this. The Plan Commission struggles with it, and I don't have a good answer. I really don't.
Okay.
I think we need to take a step back and figure out what we're going to do. Should we be enforcing these covenants at the city, or should we let Go EDC do it, or do we just pull it back in-house and do it? I think it's a strategic decision.
As a commissioner, I think I agree with you. The last question, Mr. Chairman, I have is, sorry, I forgot my question.
It may come back.
Department of Education.
And if I can comment too, when you look at this, what I would recommend you do is look at it as not necessarily that they put it up already. It's if they were coming in, is it a reasonable request? Regardless if they've done it already or not, I would have to assume they did it unknowingly. But is the request itself unreasonable? So I just throw that out
Come
there.
back?
Yes, I remember the question I was going to ask. The Common Council approved a new three triple permit fee. Would this cover? Would that permit fee cover this type of instance?
Yes.
And basically, what happens? The council approved when something. Well, from my understanding, when something is done that's not permitted, that there's a penalty that the developer or owner needs to pay, which is 3 times the permit fee. The permit fee.
Right.
Correct. It's a triple permit fee, the same as what's in the inspections office. So if you start work without a permit, and then city staff or somebody goes out there and has to track you down and do that kind of, then you're going to get hit for a triple permit fee. A lot of people will just start a job, not come in for a permit at all, and those are the ones.
I think it's a good idea. I just would hope that there would be some compassion for the smaller homeowners that may not be as expertise in the regulations as professional people. That's the end of my comments.
All right, Donna, David, and Ed, starting with you, Donna.
As I recall, if I recall correctly, when Taco John's first came here and wanted to put a restaurant out there, the covenants, or whatever they are called, would not allow, and would not also allow their regular signage because they did not want this entity in their business. We had a little bit of discussion about the need for having food out there because they are isolated. And so if I recall correctly, they did say that they would not use their regular signage, which is all around everywhere else, and would accommodate going into this new area. And so it seems that if I'm correctly recalling, this sign is appropriate, and unfortunate that we've got these little wrinkles here, but it seems to be a good sign, and so I think we should go forward.
Let me just comment on that. What Donna said. Go back to the map of the two parks quick. Well, this is what we've struggled for a little bit with even with the business covenants themselves. There are a different set of standards in the business covenants. There's a different set of standards for the business covenants over here versus what's over here, and I think down the block too. So we always intended this to be a little bit more lenient. That's why if you look at the covenants, they treat this a little bit differently. If Taco John's wanted to, and that's why we had to bring this back before this commission, because what the covenants had said was that development going on this parcel here has to be deemed harmonious and compatible. The problem with that is what's harmonious and compatible. I can't make that determination. We had to bring it here. If that would have went across the street into the main park, clearly it's not a permitted use. But when we drafted the covenants, we drafted these to be a little bit more flexible. That's all I can tell you. I wasn't here when I drafted it. David, you were probably here. But I was here, but I was in another capacity. So that's just a little brief history on kind of we had two competing standards within the covenants in the business park. And it's not uncommon. We do the same thing with our industrial park, the Southwest Industrial, and you know this, David, the Southwest, and I keep pointing at you. The Southwest Industrial Park has a different set of standards than the Northwest Industrial Park, and we've been grappling with some use and covenant issues up there lately. So yes, it's something that we're constantly working on.
Dave, and then Ed.
I'll hold, Bill,
All right.
talk to you.
Ed, technical question, sir.
I guess my technical question here is this: they applied. You can go back to the slide. Maybe they applied for a sign permit. Correct. That was what was submitted.
Correct.
For the sign permit.
This was submitted for the in the plan development package.
But then
the sign permit was issued for this sign with hand changeable copy, which would be permitted in the business park.
Regardless of.
Then they built one with an ES.
I was going to say, regardless of what their permit says A, and they built B.
Right.
I mean that's like a building permit for a 5,000 square foot building, and you build 10. I mean, I guess I know we're talking about covenants, we're talking about the business park, we're talking about a lot of things here, but at the end of the day, they were given a permit for A and they did B. And this is technical questions, I guess, so I don't need to get into the tutorial yet, but
We look forward to that.
it's going to be great. I mean, that's what I'm struggling with, because covenants are one thing, but really what's at issue here, correct me if I'm wrong, is a sign permit violation.
Well, what's really at issue
You really want to boil it down to, I understand what we're talking about,
Well, it's a
but
conditional use permit.
I mean,
Plan
conditions of plan development.
But Ed's right.
NCUP.
like, I understand
Time
what
violation.
I understand what you guys are trying to do, and I appreciate what you guys are trying to do, because it's good, but, it's
Terms of
hard
this
for us to
case.
look at it this way.
Right. All right, other technical questions? All right, seeing none, anyone here from the public to speak to this item today? Again, up to the mic, state your name and address.
Is there anybody representing the owner or the developer that wants to be here? Speak?
None.
Maybe not to you.
Developer's not here, but I did sell the land.
Could you step up to the microphone, sir, and state your name and address, please, for the record?
Tom Scharf, 1621 Maricopa Drive. I did sell the land to the property owner, but he was unable to make it today.
Are you authorized to speak for him?
Yes and no. I mean, I'll definitely try to answer any questions I can.
May I?
Go ahead.
Why did you install a sign that you weren't given authority to do?
Okay, once I sold the land to the owner, I was not involved any further with it. I was not involved with permits, anything like that.
Probably can't really answer
Yeah,
that.
we're not going to be able to answer the questions.
Yeah.
I would like to say, as long as I'm up here, I own the 3 office buildings to the west of this development.
Right.
And a 4th building hopefully going up very soon. And I guess from my perspective as another owner out there, I don't see where, you know, from an aesthetics point of view, I think the electronic messaging board is fine.
Good to know.
But it was not permitted. And that's the problem, it's that something was built that was not permitted.
Yeah, but that's not his, he's
That's
just
not-
telling us,
yeah.
he's just telling us what he thinks.
Yeah, but I'm just responding.
You don't
to-
need to scold him, Gary.
Yeah.
You don't need to
You know,
scold him.
he's,
No, I'm saying a talented point of view.
do you have anything else to share?
No.
All right, have a seat. Anybody else here to speak to this item today? Okay, seeing none, back to the commission for further discussion. Time for editorials. David?
Editorial.
One, like Ed, I appreciate what the city staff is trying to do. I do admire and appreciate that. Two, I would say, gee whiz, the guy that sold the property and the guy that has equity interest in the property next door doesn't have any problem with it. I don't know how valid that is. But I think the real issue is, and this has been a fight the whole time with this use and this owner. I mean, this has not been a good project from the beginning. I don't see how we can have somebody totally disregard, the operating conditions, if you will, or the permitted, and then come back and say, oh, gee whiz, why don't you let me do it now that I made the investment? I don't think that reasonableness has anything to do with it. I think that it's very, very clear, and I think that it sets the city up and this organization and a very bad precedent that you let people pray their way out for forgiveness, and I'm going to vote not in favor of this because of that.
Thank you, David. Go ahead, Jeff.
I don't disagree with Ed that this was a violation of a permit. I absolutely get it. I've been by that area several times. I don't find this to be onerous. I mean, I don't find what he ended up building being onerous. It's not like he took an 8-foot sign and made it 12 feet, type of thing. So I don't see it as onerous. Do I agree with what was done? No. And I understand what Dave's talking about, that, he has a permit to do one thing and he changes something else and then comes back and asks forgiveness rather than for permission. And that's not lost on me. However, I don't see this as an onerous issue. It's on appeal. The fact that he isn't here bothers me a little bit to fight for this, but I don't see any major issue with this particular change because it is fairly aesthetically appealing, although I don't like that we have maybe some holes in our process that we need to fix, and it goes beyond somebody just not agreeing to the permit, but for one, us not understanding the covenants to begin with when we approved the signage package, that we should have been able to put something in there that says you got to obey to these covenants, which I don't think we did. So I agree with Darren that we have a hole that we need to look at and see how do we fix it, because we had the same problem with Big Rig Chrome. That one was a little bit more egregious issue, and we ended up compromising kind of halfway in between what we should be allowing and what we actually end up allowing. I drive by there and I don't really see a whole heck of a lot of difference what he had before and what he has now, but
There is.
there probably is, but it doesn't jump out at you.
Give it a year.
But I don't see where this one is that egregious, so.
Other discussion? Any motions? Oh, Ed and then David.
I know what I just said, permit, whatever, but I'm kind of with Jeff on this. I don't see that this is an overly objectionable item. I think it's at least moderately appropriate in that area. We're in for a penny, in for a pound with this thing. My misgiving is really that when you say you're going to do one thing and do another, there needs to be consequences for that. And I have no issue stepping back and looking at this from the very reasonable standpoint that staff is proposing that we look at it from. Say, if this was new, would we be on board with this? And I probably would be. But I would like to, I mean, if there is, the city has to be able to show that there are consequences for not doing things the right way. We've got 50 years of construction and development in this city that we can point to that exists today, that we can say, this guy didn't do what he was supposed to do, and it, you know, caused a problem down the road. So the city at some point has to have some teeth in what they do. So I don't know what the options are. I don't know if there's a fine that can be levied for this. I don't, know what it is. I'm not sure how that would work. So I guess I'm stuck with this. I'm probably going to vote in favor for it. But I really would like to see the city find some way to say, hey, you didn't follow your permit. You violated what you said you were going to do. You're getting fined. And, that's the way it is. I know that's sort of talking out of both sides of my mouth, but we have to find a way to walk this line a little bit.
David?
This is really a question for Jeff. Would it make any difference if the owner was here to make some kind of presentation?
I would have liked to have heard what he would have said regarding why that violation occurred.
Was it a
Because
mistake?
We don't know if it was just a mistake,
No, and
or if it was just an
yeah.
overt disregard of what was there, or if it was just an oversight. That's what I would have liked some clarity on that, but I don't necessarily need it. Like Ed said, the way staff has presented it, would I have probably approved this as part of the original package? Probably so. I don't think this would have been something over-the-top request.
And the basis of the question was, if it would make a difference, would it be appropriate to lay it over and say that we would like to have the owner here to address?
Yeah, I don't think whatever he said, one way or
You don't
another,
think that makes any
would have made any difference to me.
Okay.
Donna, and then Gary, and then Steve.
Yeah, I will support the sign. A few weeks ago, we had a person here, a landowner, a surveyor had made a mistake on his property. And, to this date, and that was several years ago, to this date, that property is still under the surveyor's mistake. And we do not, I appreciate all the input that we've had from people who are much more knowledgeable on this than I am. But we don't know where the mistake came, if it was a mistake. We don't know if it was the owner's mistake, the sign people's mistake, or whatever. So I do support this. I think it's an attractive sign. It doesn't bother me. I'm sure that if I was flying down the road, I wouldn't stop and say, oh my God. So I will support it.
All right, Gary, and then Steve.
Yeah, just a quick comment in regards to whether or not the owner is present or not. If you look at it logically, the owner could probably have two responses. One is a mistake, and the other one is it's not a mistake. I doubt very much if the owner would come here and say it was an intentional mistake, that I disregard the commission and I disregard what the city says. So I'm not sure if it was that important, is that important for the owner to be here. And that's my comment.
Okay, thank you. Steve?
Well, taking what Ed has said and David, we do have policies and programs and procedures in place, and this is not the first time it's not an oops factor. These people know what they're doing. This is not his first development, I don't think. He knew what was approved. He knew what had to be built. He did something differently. I don't think we can keep making all these exceptions to all this stuff because of, I didn't understand. So. And I'm not going to support it. I think we've had policies that are in place. It's not fair to the planning department to do all this work and then have somebody come and say, "Oh, I didn't understand." But I don't buy that.
Thank you. Jeff?
Does the triple permit apply in this issue?
It will apply for the building permit end of it. Won't apply for our zoning end of it because that doesn't apply until March 1st.
Anything else before we decide? Anybody want to make a motion to move this along a little?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion itself? Last chance for editorials? All right, let's call a vote.
Gray,
No.
Lori,
Aye.
Orsuck,
No.
Owen,
Aye.
Holmes,
Aye.
Cummings,
No.
Wojtek.
No.
Motion denied, 3-4.
This advisory goes to council next Tuesday.
Not knowing what policy is, am I allowed, can I make just a brief comment?
If you'd like to, go ahead.
So you've denied,
Right.
which is your prerogative. We also be asking Verve to take down their electronic reader board?
That's not in front of us right now. And we're making a recommendation to the council. The council will.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah, I think you heard the discussion. It's been one of these things where it's been kind of an ongoing challenge, and it's a tough one.
okay, thank you.
Tough one, sure. Let's move on to item number 2, residential design standards variance request for the closure of one window and the reduction of one window on the west side elevation of property located at 402 West 10th Avenue.
Same problem. This guy did it.
Okay, thanks.
Up to you.
The applicant is requesting approval of a variance from the city's residential design standards to permit the closure of one window and the reduction of one window located on the west side elevation of the single-family home at 402 West 10th Avenue. Variance is being requested in reference to Code Section 3035N3A, which states all existing window openings on front or side building facades shall be maintained and not closed or filled partially or totally. Okay, so on the screen is the subject site. The property is a residential corner lot located at 402 West 10th Avenue and is approximately 45 square feet in area. The property contains a one-story single-family residential structure which was built in 1958. The 400 block of West 10th Avenue contains predominantly single-family uses in the area zoned R2, two-family dwelling district. There's the aerial view. So the Plan Commission is authorized to grant variances from the strict application of the standards when it is determined that one or more of the following apply. The intent of standards have been incorrectly interpreted. Standards do not apply to the particular project, and/or enforcement of the standards causes unnecessary hardship. The applicant is requesting 2 design standards variances. The first design standards variance is allowing an existing window located on the west side elevation of the home to be removed or closed. The primary reason given for the window removal is that it has been closed off on the inside as part of a previous bathroom remodel. The applicant would like to remove the window and put siding over the opening, which would match the rest of the house. So you can see here, this is the west side of the house, and the window in question is this one right back here. And you can see from the side here, and this is the interior, there is an existing bathroom closure, and behind it is still is a window. So they're requesting it to be closed and finished off. Staff recommends approval of the variance request to permit closure of a side window, which is the bathroom at 402 West 10th Avenue, with the following findings. The standards do not apply to this particular project because the proposed window closure will not adversely affect the structure's architectural design, the neighborhood character, or curb appearance of the block. The second design standards variance is to allow an existing window located on the west side elevation of the home to be reduced by 45%. The window has already been installed, and the exterior currently does not have trim or siding. The subject window is located approximately 24 feet from the front facade of the home, 38 feet from the property line, and approximately 20 feet from the neighboring structure to the west. The original window was 28 by 56, which has been replaced with a 24 by 36 window without first obtaining a building permit. And you can see here, this is how it looks currently, and they reduced the size. And on the inside, it was to help accommodate for the cabinet and storage space with this new kitchen remodel. This image is the furthest rear window, which is also smaller than the other windows on the main facade. Staff recommends denial of the variance request to permit reduction of a side window, which is the kitchen, at 402 West 10th Avenue, with the following findings. The standards apply to this particular project because the proposed window reduction will adversely affect the structure's architectural design, the neighborhood character, or curb appearance of the block.
We got a disconnect, because mine says approval.
You're looking at
There's
there's two variances.
recommendations.
I don't even in my packet, I know that, Joe.
Two variance requests.
Look at the
for two different
recommendations.
windows.
So the first one is the bathroom.
I have a blonde moment.
Hey, did you straighten them out?
Yeah, I did.
Oh.
I don't even have my packet, I did.
Oh,
You done? Before we get started on technical questions, just so you know, I've been remiss in this must be the first time Alexa's been here. She's been here almost a year. I've not introduced her, so as pointed out, thanks, David. This is Alexa Najunas. She's been here since, what, last
February
March?
of last year.
See, a whole year. And I haven't brought her to,
so she's brand new.
and I haven't brought her in yet. So yeah,
For this process.
she's brand new and she's.
Welcome,
she's,
Alexa.
Congratulations or salutations for making bad mistakes.
Probably the last one she wanted to attend.
Yeah.
She's working primarily with Elizabeth on the neighborhood stuff. That's why you haven't seen her as much. And with the Ped and Bike Committee, she's staff liaison to the Ped and Bike Committee, and she gets to get in the mix of these things every once in a while. So comes to us from Chicago. Yeah, she's a Bear fan, but
All right. Takes all kinds. All right. Technical questions.
Mr.
Gary.
Chairman, I have,
Thank you.
so it's my understanding, looking at the picture on page 7, that the window that is proposed to be reduced is not abutting the siding, that there's a little bit of an indentation to that window?
no,
I'm talking about the brown window that's the kitchen window.
The one that was reduced.
That one wants to be reduced.
Yeah, that's located on this bumped out area.
Is that even with the side of the building, or is there a little bit of indentation?
There's an indentation.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Other technical, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry.
Is the kitchen window, is that the same size window as the one that's remaining back in the back, or is it a little bit smaller?
I don't know the size of the
So the
rear.
one that's remaining back in the, no, back to the,
This one? that's
yeah,
also
the one that's remaining back in the back side, is that window, what size is that window compared to the one that they're doing in the kitchen? Because if they're the same size window, I don't see how you deny it for,
You got to go forward, though, to the front of the house. The window in the front of to the front.
no, and I understand that, that one's larger. They're taking out a large one, and I understand that one, but I was wondering if that size window was the same as the one in the back, which is different from the front. I mean, I get it.
The applicant didn't provide the size for the rear window, so I don't know.
Other technical questions?
Just a quick question.
Uh-huh.
Is the applicant here by any chance that could answer that question? Is the applicant here?
She is.
Maybe the applicant can.
When we
can,
get to the public comment,
Okay.
we can hold it. Other technical questions?
And the one thing I can add on this is
Right.
we kind of struggled a little bit with this, because if you look at the inside, yeah, it does look,
Yep.
but it had, had we been able to get involved on the front end of it, we might have been able to come up with a design, because you're allowed a 10% variance. So you might have been able to design around it. So it's hard for us. It's one of those cases where it's moving forward, and we couldn't really support it because we think there were some alternatives. We put some language in there that there could be potentially a hardship, because if make the window go back in, then it's going to affect, you're going to go down to the countertops and potentially take out one of those cabinets.
Work, yeah.
So, yeah, so one of those situations where we all come to us first, and we can try and work with you.
Ed?
So was this work that was previously completed, was this done with a building permit or without a building?
No.
Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct.
All right. Anyone here from the
I
audience?
would correct what? That it was done
What
with.
was correct? Without or
I think it
with?
was correct that it was without.
Yeah, I was done with that one.
There was no building permit.
Problem. All right, anybody here from the public speak to this item today? Come on up, ma'am, state your name and address, and tell us what you'd like us to know.
That's no freaking break.
Hi, I'm Deneen Kimmel at 402 West 10th Avenue. The original process was done with a building permit because the permit was to I don't know the right word, to make a duplex, change it into a single family. And by doing that, I had to take two small kitchens and put them together into one kitchen that would be usable for a family. And that part of it was under a permit. And the cabinets some were pre-existing and some were from the back of the house. And I put them all together to make one larger kitchen. The window itself was not under a permit because I was not aware that you needed a permit for a $95 window. I figured I'd just slap it in there, put the siding back on it, and it would look awesome. Yes, Ed?
Did you do that work yourself, or did you have a contractor who did that?
I had a friend do the window, he framed it out, and then I helped put the window in. And then I had a contractor actually install all of the cabinets and put them in place and level everything out and put the new countertops on. So the friend framed it out and then I put the window in.
Great. Anything else to share? Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, can you answer whether the size of that window is the same as the back window that you're leaving in?
The size of the kitchen window is not the exact same size as the back window, but it is closer to the same size as the back window than any of the other windows. I believe there was like a 5 to 10 inch difference in the sizes between the back window and the kitchen window.
Any other questions for the owner of the home?
I believe Gary asked about the window being indented.
Yes, I was just more curious than anything else.
The only reason it appears to be indented from the actual face of the building is because the siding has not been put back on. It has not been finished off yet. I have the siding to finish it off so that it doesn't take away from the curb appeal. And I also have the original trim so that that would match the other windows.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay. Anybody else here to speak to this item today? All right.
Approval?
It's been move approval. What are you approving here, just to be clear?
Approving that we accept the design standard request.
We have two.
There's two recommendations.
Yes, two of them.
One's accept and one's deny.
Oh, then
I would take them up
standard.
as separate items.
It would be easier, yes. Oh, sure, come on up if you would.
I just want to say one more thing. On the fact of the hardship, it would be more of a hardship for me to try to redesign everything in the kitchen and make that window larger than to remove the bathroom window. So if there was any consideration from the Plan Commission, I would be very grateful if the decision was made to not remove the bathroom window instead and to approve the kitchen window, because that's going to present a larger hardship for me.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Back to us.
I move to approve it as it is stated here, that we will the one closure and the other one not.
Been moved that we accept the recommendation of the city staff as written.
All right, I'll second
You
that.
want to comment?
Moved and seconded, now discussion of that motion.
I was going to try to, sorry.
What I was, I think I heard that there may be something for, where if the owner came back to staff and tried to figure out something and move it along, that we could, and even by the time it came to council or whatever, come up with something. I would prefer to leave it the way it is and then see if there is, instead of us doing it in the back of a napkin right here, is see if the owner and staff could come together with, and resolve it in, by the time it comes, because it does, you have, what, 2 weeks before it comes to council?
These do not go to council.
It's not going to
Oh,
come.
does it come to
Yeah, no,
council?
the design center.
This is it.
Not design side,
Oh, that-
the side is final.
Hearing and Ed?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I was just going to comment that this wasn't going to be coming to the council, so this is it. The decision we make here is it.
Can I make one comment based on what David was talking about? Here's what the situation looks like from the inside. You've got a cabinet here, countertop here. So you've got a cabinet tight to this side of the wall here, a cabinet tight to this side of the wall here, and you've probably got maybe a foot, not even, okay, so it's even less than that. So you got less than a foot that you'd be potentially adding into that area. So as far as the flexibility, David, I liked what you're talking about, but anything that direction that you want to go is going to be, a cabinet's got to come out on either side and they got to recenter it. So, I mean, that's really, unless you're looking to make this a little bit longer, which can be done. I don't know, I don't have this exact dimension here. That can easily, I think it can relatively easily be done. The other stuff is going to be more problematic. Again, we're in after the fact situation on these things, so it's hard for us to.
Ed, you have a solution for us, maybe?
Well, no, it sounded to me like there might be some willingness to look at some alternatives on her part. I was wondering if it wouldn't just make sense to maybe lay it over 2 weeks and see, I mean,
That's my thinking.
anything going to happen in the next, I mean, we are the final say on this, I
Yes.
guess. So before we go, saying.
Right.
Should I withdraw my second? And
Could do that.
I'll withdraw my second.
And I'll withdraw the motion.
We're all withdrawn here. Jeff?
I'd be in support of laying it over, because I actually don't see where this is any different than Taco John's issue. It was done after, and then they come in after the fact to get approval.
The big difference between the two is one where the Taco John sign is located from a zoning perspective, it's permitted. This, from a zoning perspective with the architectural design standards, is not permitted. You can't do a more than 10% closure in the window on the side. So that's the clear.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, if we were to grant a variance to this, I don't see where that's any different than coming in after the fact to do it after it's already done. And no building permit was done. So I would just assume not deny it now, lay it over, see what we can come up with as a solution, and then address the solution for the person, the owner.
Okay, so
So I'll make a motion to lay over.
I'll second that.
And with the comment that I have issues with work being performed without building permits, because, the building permits seem like a pain. They are a pain, whatever. But this is the sort of thing that the building permits are designed to head off. I mean, I know they're a headache, but, so I'd like to see the ability to come to some sort of flexibility and some arrangement or whatever, but I don't know if it's possible, given what I'm seeing in that kitchen.
So it's been moved and seconded to lay this over. Any discussion on that motion? Let's call the vote here.
Ray?
Aye.
Might as well give her a chance.
Lori?
Aye.
Boysak?
Aye.
Bowen?
Aye.
Holmes?
Aye.
Wojtek? Oh, I'm sorry, Cummings?
Aye.
Wojtek?
Aye.
Motion carried 7-0.
We thought you left already.
Just as a note, these side window variances are really causing us, I mean, we're bringing a lot of them through
And on a
here.
corner lot, it's really tough,
corner lot.
because it's so,
And that's why I really want, I mean, I think if there's some time that we can give to allow you guys to try to come up with an alternative, I'd like to see that before I vote no on something.
I mean, we've talked about things like, could they incorporate some type of faux window into that? So you would put,
Like spandrel glass or something.
sometimes, they've got a lot of products out there where you
Yeah.
could retain that, maybe keep that. I don't know if there's an actual product out there. I mean, I can talk to somebody, we can talk to some individuals and see if it's out there. I don't know.
I mean,
The natural light in here, I understand why somebody would want the natural.
but I don't want to redesign it, but I mean, on the same token, I mean, you could put in a little bit longer window. It gets closer to the 10% variance. You know, they could put, something that actually, like you said, that kind of looks like a part of the window that's not on the side to give it the appearance. So there may be some options there that would make it look similar, but not have to address the inside of the cabinets, is what I'm
We can explore
getting
some
at.
alternatives. It's in already, it's not going to go away.
so you guys can work together with the city, hopefully, and figure something out? Yep. Whoever. All right, great, thank you. Let's move on to item number 3.
We just created some more work.
Residential design standards, once again, variance request for the closure of one window on the south side elevation at 919 Power Street over.
Are we just doing design standards? This design standards week, huh?
Theme week.
Yeah, that's another one, another side facade.
Thanks, Darren.
They're requesting a design standards variance to close off a side facade window. This one is on the south side elevation of a single-family home at 919 Power Street, which is an interior lot. The property is located on the west side of Power Street between East Melvin Avenue and Sterling Avenue, and the area consists of predominantly single-family uses, and the area is zoned R1 single-family residence. And here's an aerial view of the subject property. And this single-family home was constructed in 1948, and it had a rear addition installed in 1980. And as part of a remodeling project, the property owner has added a patio door to the rear west facade of the addition. And the owner would also like to remove a window on the south side facade of the addition, as seen circled on this picture. So a variance from the design standards is required to remove the window on the south side of the addition, as it is a side facade. The petitioner states that since the subject window is located on an addition to the original home rather than the original home itself, the design standards should not apply to this project. And the petitioner also noted that he will be adding landscaping on the south side of the property that would screen the subject window from view from the street. And staff has evaluated the proposal and is in support of the variance request, as the architectural integrity of the original home will not be impacted since the subject window is located on a later constructed rear addition of the home, which is not an integral part of the architectural character. And also, staff does not feel that removal of the subject window will have a negative impact on adjacent properties or the curb appeal of the block, as long as landscaping is installed to screen the blank wall that will be created if the window is removed. And staff recommends approval of the variance request to permit closure of a window on the south side facade at 919 Powers Street, with the finding that the design standards do not apply to this project because the window closure will not detract from the architectural integrity of the original home and will not adversely affect the neighborhood character or curb appeal of the block, with the following condition: that landscaping be installed along the south side of the rear addition that screens the area of window closure from the street.
All right, technical questions. Let's start with Dave and then go to Jeff.
Will the landscape, will there be something to the effect of a landscaping plan that'll be approved by staff? Because it's kind of open-ended, just saying, I'll put landscaping in.
It will be required that blank wall will be screened from the street. We will need to work with the property owner to make sure that happens.
But they'll come to staff with what they're proposing to do?
Yes.
Is that?
Something bigger in the bush.
Yeah.
Well, it's a big window.
I think it's the first time we've had this situation where we're adding landscaping as a...
Good. Because it doesn't say, it just says puts landscape.
Yeah, typically, you had one of these not too long ago with a reduction in the window side on the front. when the permit gets issued, before the permit gets issued for this has not been issued yet. Before it gets issued, before the case, he would have to supply a site plan showing probably, in this case, at least 2 arborvitae or something that's going to grow up over the height. I think one of his options was also, he was thinking about doing a fence there as well. That would also screen it. But yeah, we would approve that as part of the permit issuance, so it would be, since it's a condition of approval from this body, it would have to be included with this permit. Right.
Jeff and then Gary?
Permit hasn't been issued, but the window's already been removed.
He did have
Looks like a piece
a
of
permit for
plywood.
remodeling, and he added a patio to the rear of the house. This looks like it's just temporarily boarded up for now, and he did come in to get the permit to side over the whole area, and that's where we came into.
Okay, so that was my second question. What's going to be done is similar siding to what's already there?
Yep, he's going to replace all the siding that's not brick, so he'll replace all the siding and soffits on everything that's not brick. So it'll be completely sided over.
Okay, and then the last thing, I think it was stated that he didn't feel that because it's an addition that it applied. That's not how we interpret things, right? I mean, just because it's a housing addition, the rules still apply to those housing additions. It's just part of the structure of the house now.
Right, the side still counts, the addition would count. If it was a new addition, it would have to have 25% window
Right,
opening.
but-
However, I think he was making the argument that it's not part of the architecture of the building, you know, it's not, wouldn't be, but that, I mean, that's just what he was stating.
But that's not what you guys base your decision.
No.
As far as I'm concerned, that building, I mean, regardless whether it's 6 months old or whether it's 10 years old, that is part of the architectural part of the building because it was built there. So the standards still would apply, but you're saying that the standards don't apply because it's not going to, because of the reasons that you guys stated.
Yeah, especially
Correct.
because I think, you know, we've been looking at, especially the ones that get towards that rear plane of the
Yeah,
house,
yeah.
away from the street.
Yeah.
We've been more supportive of those versus something that's right up front within that first 10 to 15 feet of the.
And I don't really have a problem with what's being done here. I think it'll look fine. I just was wondering about additions, the assertion, and I noticed you didn't use that assertion in here, but I wanted to clarify it for us.
We just put that in there for your consideration.
Okay.
Gary?
Yeah, a couple of quick questions. The condition on this is landscaping be installed, but Mr. Buck said that perhaps there would be fence. And my question is a fence landscaping?
A fence is not landscaping. And a fence may not be high enough to screen it, which is why the condition of landscaping was there.
Could do both.
Could possibly do both. We wouldn't prohibit him from putting a fence there, but what we're recommending is requiring the landscaping.
Okay, the second question I have is, when staff looks at architectural integrity, is that some kind of subjective review, or is there some kind of technical review in determining whether or not a building is integral with the architectural?
It's both. Some homes have specific styles and specific designs. They would even call out where windows are placed, where porches are located, roof pitches, roof designs. I mean, Queen Anne or a classical Italian 8 or something has design standards with it. Some of the more modern post-World War II homes, it's a little more subjective, but even those have basic design elements to them. Now, ones that have additions added on over time, it gets harder to determine that, so in that case, it becomes subjective.
Okay, in this case, this house does not have any specific architectural design.
I wouldn't be able to tell you what it's called. It does have an architectural design. It's a style of house. You've seen them.
Fine. That's fine. Thank you.
Any other technical questions? Okay, seeing none, anybody here from the public to speak to this item today? Jumping up, so public commentary is closed. Back to the commission.
Move to approve.
Second, with conditions. Yeah.
All right, it's been moved and seconded with conditions to approve this. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Ray,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Boyce,
Aye.
Bowen,
Aye.
Holmes,
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Carried 6-0.
Katie. Item number 4, comprehensive plan update presentation, East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission.
Mr. Eric Fall, Executive Director,
Hi.
here to present on the process that we're moving forward to update the plan. This is Eric, and he was going to give you a brief presentation.
Thank you for your patience, sir.
I'm used to it, thank you. And I'm happy to say I'll get you out of the minutia, and we'll go to 30,000 feet and talk big picture here. It's amazing the time and commitment you put in on these little details. It's much appreciated. Unfortunately, Tom Barron and my staff cannot be here tonight. He had a conflict, and Tom is going to be one of the lead project managers. I'm going to pass around copies of my card and Tom's, just so you have them. And we're very excited, and we thank the city for contracting with us to do an update of your comprehensive plan. As you know, that needs to be done about every 10 years, certainly not as often as you deal with the design standards here. That's a good thing. But 10 years is long enough where changes do occur, and I think, familiar with the city, no doubt some things have changed quite drastically in time to revisit that plan. We're certainly excited to work with the city. We haven't been as engaged with some of our larger municipalities in the region to this kind of planning in the past, so we take it a bit as a vote of confidence given some of the past work we've done. And I assure you we're going to do our due diligence and probably do much more than the average private consultant. And I think part of that is due to the fact that we have a lot of familiarity with Oshkosh. We're engaged in quite a number of arenas with respect to planning, and so there's some efficiencies there. There's some deeper knowledge that we hope shines through. I think timing-wise, doing an update of the plan is very key and sort of an exciting time I see for Oshkosh. A lot of things going on, borrowing money to do projects, looking at big-picture economic development things, working with new economic development organizations and the like. So change is a constant, and change is obviously something the city wants to control and manage to some degree. And I think we want to draw on the experience that we've had, the knowledge we have, as well as the staff, the plan commissioners, elected officials, and the general citizenry, so that we can give you a better plan than you had before, something that I would argue is more realistic, but at the same time more visionary. We want that plan to better address the issues and the opportunities that exist in that broader context of the region as a whole, and I think that's where we add value. So we will be doing a fairly standard process with respect to the plan, but we're going to add a few enhancements. And before I get to that, though, we need to start from the beginning. And one of the premises of planning and good planning is citizen participation.
I made copies. I made the proposed edits and the clean copies.
Oh, you do? Okay.
So I'm going to hand it around.
Very good. Better to have extra. We're still in the paper valley, so we didn't put anybody out of a job. So I didn't have time to communicate with you today anyway. So Darren and I had looked at and worked through the current citizen participation plan, the one that was put in place, formally adopted to do the first smart growth plan under the new statutory requirements back then. We've massaged that and really edited it so it not only fits some of the things that we talked about in the contract, but also talk about some of the things that the city's engaged in right now. I'm not going to go through this in detail. The intent is that the Plan Commission would formally act on this at their next meeting and be a separate agenda item, but we wanted to make sure we got it in your hands and just took some time to explain it. It is a statutory requirement to have that participation plan. A lot of it is pretty straightforward, documents and outlines the process that will take place and really the methods that will be used to gather citizen input and to ensure transparency and opportunities for input and feedback. At the end of the process, there will be 2 public hearings, as I understand, one at this body and one at the council, and a myriad of other activities that are listed there will occur in between, some near the front of the process, some near the end, some all the way through. I think what I want to point out here is 2 things. Knowing that there is a lot of planning activity occurring right now with the city, the downtown master plan, recent things that have happened in terms of planning. I've listed a number of plans on page 3, that it's our intent not to spend a whole lot of time and effort up front doing really detailed public workshops, visioning, those kind of things. But because of the recent information, take a lot of the information from those plans and planning process and then append and add to that with some additional input in your traditional forums, as well as working with some focus groups in this committee too. If you see something that's missing there you think is critical, certainly let Darren know. So please give this a look. The intent is to work with this body, sort of an expanded version of this body, looking at adding a couple ad hoc members perhaps to add some additional expertise or perspective. So I think that's something you as a committee want to think about. Work with Darren, and possibly, I'm not sure by the next meeting, but the one after, we'd hope that those ad hoc members are in place and we can kind of formally kick off the process with that expanded group. I don't know if there's any questions on this initially. If not,
So as you look through it, it's not a major, I mean, we're already operating under the public participation plan, just making some, enhancing it a little bit, so they're not radical changes to this thing. They're just, I think, being clearer in some regards.
yeah, yeah.
Go ahead.
How does this line up with the myriad of changes that our legislature is contemplating on changing it, that we've talked about, that's affecting our ability to do proper planning and even have comprehensive plans?
Well, I can tell you, I answer that really easy. We can still plan. We just can't implement some of those plans. It's not really.
Well, that's kind of
we gotta have a plan, but yeah, that's really. I mean, we still can have a plan. We should have a plan. Is it getting tougher out there? Yes. Is there anything on the books right now that I can think of that's going to radically change things with regard to comprehensive planning? There's some out there. I can't think of them.
Any on the horizon that affects this, the participation portion?
Nothing. The legislature is certainly toying with a lot of regulatory things that would be considered under implementation. Typically, once per legislative session, someone tries to get smart growth thrown out completely, but it fails to do so every time. I think communities have invested too much in that and actually see the value in it, at least in our part of the world. So, but that's a good question. That's something we'll kind of keep our eyes out for. If there's drastic changes, we can hopefully address those or incorporate them midstream. But realistically, we're not getting to that level of detail in this type of plan. If we are, then we're getting off track a little bit, I would argue. So,
do we have a process to include some of our surrounding municipalities?
Yep, and I make mention of that as well. Before I do, I'll wrap up with that actually, because I think that's a good stopping point. The other things I was going to say is that we are going to build this plan under sort of the same 9 elements that are traditional under the smart growth requirements, but we're going to look at enhancing things, and I'm not going to promise that the document is going to reflect this in its entirety, but we're going to be looking at trying to package some of the issues and the potential solutions or recommendations into things that are much more easier to understand by the public. There's a lot of little packages of different planning things out there, complete streets, looking at walkability, livability, placemaking, all these little pieces that draw from those 9 different elements, and I think are critical when you're looking at the future of your community. So we're going to build off the existing information in the plans, we're going to add new feedback to this, and then of course we're going to do analysis on the data, the information that is generated, but really kind of look at it through a bunch of different lenses than your typical 9 elements, which I still think are a bit siloed. They don't interconnect enough in a lot of plans that we see. We're not going to start from scratch in the sense that there's still a lot of good stuff in your comp plan. We've got a lot of good stuff going on in other planning activities. We want to kind of get rid of the outdated stuff, and we want to be more conscious about the factors that are actually going to drive land use and land use change, particularly demographics, and also how can we leverage the city's assets, the things you really have going for you, so that you build on that and have the successes for your downtown, for your riverfront, for the commercial corridors, industrial parks, and the like. I was thinking on my drive over here from Wautoma, you guys are involved in a downtown master plan. we're not going to duplicate that, but we are going to draw from that and information that's generated. Our plan is going to look at downtown more in the context of the whole city. What should the rest of the city be doing to support what's required or desired downtown? How do you improve neighborhoods and commercial districts that might be gateways to the downtown, enhance them so they provide services but not compete with the downtown? So we've got this whole level of scale there.
Well, what I was trying to get at is to try and address some of the outskirts areas
Yep.
of Oshkosh, because we just ran into
Townships.
in townships. We ran into this not too long ago where we were looking at an apartment complex that got
20th Street.
that got thrown down, and there were people saying, geez, you annexed that, nobody knew about it, and et cetera, so forth and so on. How do we then start looking outside our particular borders to incorporate those things so we don't run into those kinds of issues? I mean, we always will, but but that we address some of those issues in our comp plan this time. Personally, I thought the comp plan was written pretty well. Thanks, David.
Donna's been wanting to speak for a long time.
Eric, it's nice to have you here and nice to meet you. For the last 3 years, I have been attending many meetings reference to transportation, because we did initiate a new bus route that took place 3 years ago. And the people that I advocate for, which are the elderly and the disabled, have been underserved with this new route system, as well as Jeff brings up the townships. We have the town of Algoma that is right on our border, and we have no bus route in there at all. So as you do move forward, I would hope, certainly, that these things are addressed, because Advocap just mentioned that the people that they have trying to find work come to them without transportation. And so without a good bus system that gets them across town in less than an hour, they can't get to their work sites that they might like to have. And also the disabled young children at the high schools who are in wheelchairs. An hour is too long to be riding a bus to go somewhere and then to have to come back. Just give you those points.
Well, efficiency in transportation, whether it's transit, automobile, or bike, is certainly something that we want to take a look at. I want to make sure that folks understand that this plan is not going to be the end-all, be-all in terms of solution to that, but the recognition of it as an issue, the use of that as sort of a building block, a base from a citywide perspective, that's something that needs to be dealt with, and maybe we can get some things done in terms of land use and land use practices that better help to push it in that direction, would be more the goal of this plan than getting into the minutia of costs and routes.
You did mention getting people down to the downtown area. And at this point in time, the downtown is Walmart. That is the hub, and that's where all the buses go. And so that is defeating bringing people down to the center of the city.
Yeah, just a couple of brief initial comments. First comment, not an older priority, I guess, is with the additional members, I hold members to the update committee, I would suggest that perhaps there would be a uneven number, so that the total membership of the committee would not be able to divide equally in half. I'm not envisioning that to happen, but I think protection is better than trying to deal with end results. A second, perhaps more important thing is, I think I agree with what Eric says, is that the comp plan should, if there is reason for it, to be specifically focused on local community, because the local community is a unique community, and they may have various issues that other communities do not have. The third initial comment is, I understand the relationship to surrounding communities, but we should not be extremely broad in regards to expanding, because when do we stop expanding our concerns? That's it.
All right. David?
I'm not sure if it's in here, but what is the timeline from beginning to end?
The timeline is we are looking at trying to complete this process by mid-2017. So we're going to work through it this year. We're going to try not to overtax this committee with a lot of meetings. We're going to work with staff quite a bit, obviously some separate focus groups, but I think we can draw some efficiencies and get it done in that time frame. And my honest opinion is I think this will not be controversial. If it's done right, you typically don't have those kind of problems at the end, which is the importance of the citizen participation plan. To get to Mr. Tom's point on intergovernmental coordination and the adjacent entities, we actually build into the process at the very end. We notify them, of course, statutorily. There are some elected officials within the towns that are going to be notified through the process. So when this body meets and they're talking about the plan, we'll certainly invite them. But at the end, once we have a draft plan done and a land use map done, we like to actually hold an intergovernmental meeting. We like to specifically invite those adjacent and overlapping units, the school districts, the DNR, DOT, and say, hey, we've got a plan, come on in, now's the chance to understand it and to kind of get your kicks in, if you have any, in a less formal setting. And that typically works, if they show up to begin with. So we'll do the due diligence there. We are also taking some, I call it extra precautions as we start. There's a statutory requirement to notify any operating non-metallic mine sites that are within the community proper. We're notifying any of them that are within the 3-mile extraterritorial area, just to be safe, so that those folks know that the city's doing some planning. You know, we'll take any other, or make any other accommodations that are necessary during the process there. So, but I think it's going to be a good plan when it's done, and the thing that you're going to see at the end, the land use map, is going to probably look drastically different from what you're used to looking at here. A lot of times these land use maps, these initial ones that are done, resemble zoning maps too much, and it fosters confusion. We want to actually deal more with the issues, the opportunities, the solutions at a broad scale, develop a land use map that is more conceptual in nature, is a bit more fuzzy, has a lot more ideas illustrated on it, because people won't go through the text of a document, they look at the map. And it's also going to give you and your staff more flexibility in terms of making decisions. So we think it's going to be a good plan when it's done.
So what action are we taking here today? Anything?
It's really kind of an introduction kickoff. I was hoping Tom and my staff was going to be here so we could introduce him more importantly, but he had something come up. Yeah, but we look forward to working with you. We're just getting the process started, just kind of getting settled in with staff, making sure we know who's doing what, and I think it'll be a great process. We don't want to make it boring. We want to make it productive.
Great. Thank you very much, sir. All right. This is the end of our formal meeting. We need a motion to adjourn. Oh.
One quick note before we adjourn. The Imagine Oshkosh project, the Central City Plan update is underway. It's been underway since December. Of course, we had some of our meetings. We kicked it off this week with a community workshop meeting last night. Gary and David were there. Thank you for participating. And this morning with a business, one is more business and business owner focused. We had about 30 people last night, 15 people this morning. I think the surveys are running on the website, about 100 community and 20s for the business. What I'd like, anybody out there, go to the city's website. Go to the city's website or Google Imagine Oshkosh, and there's a website set up for this project, and it's got some you can link to the survey to provide your input, and then there's a real cool map feature on there that I don't think is getting enough play, that you can put points on a map in the downtown area, put comments on it for us to consider as we're going forward. So please visit our website or Google Imagine Oshkosh and get to our website and take the survey. Thanks.
David, before we close.
Last night was really impressive. I thought, exclusive of what I had to say, that there were a lot of thoughtful comments and observations that the participants had, and it was really very, I think that the only shortcoming is that there weren't more participants.
Yep. Donna?
As you're going forward, now, a couple of times we've talked about the extra territorial, the towns of Oshkosh and Algoma, Nakaimai, those, are you going to have some sort of a map so we can see where we butt up to them for future? Because they're going to...
We used to have maps up here, and I think they're rolled up in there, but yeah, you'll have those maps going forward.
Good, thank you. Appreciate it.
Anything else before we end this formal part of our meeting here, before we go to worship? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, workshop.
All right, let's workshop.
For 3 today.